Welcome everyone today. Thank you for coming to our International Agriculture webinar. We will start in 5 minutes while we wait for others to join in. So let's get ready, get a glass of coffee or tea, and we will start shortly. Thank you. All right, I think we shall make a move. And once again, I would like to welcome you all here in this webinar session. Today's webinar is International Agriculture Webinar with the topic Increasing Global Food Production Sustainably. Okay, my name is Rachel Tan and I'm one of the country manager at the University of Tasmania. Welcome you all. I'll be your host for webinar today. Before I introduce our presenter for today, I would like to give you a few housekeeping rules. First of all, if you have any questions, please drop them in the Q&A box. We will answer them after the presentation. And secondly, today's presentation will be recorded and will be made available for later viewing. And as we all know, agriculture scientists are leading change in sustainably food production, improving livestock productivity and animal welfare, managing crop pests, and enhancing food safety and nutrition. Agriculture science graduates from our University of Tasmania, are employed across all sectors and are in high demand. Demand for agriculture scientists will continue to be strong, with food production needing to double in 2050 to feed the world's population. Without further ado, our presenter today will be Associate Professor Cara Berry. She is a degree coordinator, belongs to Tasmanian Institute of Agriculture at our university. I hand it over to Professor Cara Berry.
Thanks very much, Rachel, and welcome everybody to joining our webinar. It's great to have your interest in our degree and our degree at University of Tasmania, where we're focused on agriculture and food production. So, Rachel, could you move to the next slide, please?
Sure.
Yeah, so the title that we've given the talk today, well, actually, if you just go back one, I think, is increasing global food production sustainably. So there is a big focus in our degree on sustainable production using modern and best practice to efficiently use, water, nutrients, soils, and do everything in a very environmentally safe way. And we are within the College of Science and Engineering at University of Tasmania. So if you move to the next slide, please. So as Rachel already outlined, agricultural scientists really play a big role in sustainable food production. So they really help to support and lead the farmers, the growers, the food production systems, and they do so with a really strong basis in science. And some examples here that I've listed on this slide include agricultural scientists could be involved with developing crops which can be grown in really marginal areas. So for example, areas that suffer from drought or salinity, we can grow crops better if we can apply science and select tolerant crops. We can also use systems such as protected cropping systems. So the photo in this slide here shows you a berry crop growing under a protected cropping system. And of course, a lot of agricultural production these days from around the world is moving into protected cropping systems. So we have a lot of expertise in that. We also see lots of examples of agricultural scientists being able to help manage crop pests and diseases and doing that sustainably, and also having good skills that can help support and prevent biosecurity threats. So many countries will be hoping to prevent the arrival of new pests or diseases, and agricultural scientists can get involved either with industry or with the government or through doing research to prevent the movement of those threats around the world. Obviously, agricultural scientists do not just work with plants. Some people will specialise in animal production. So livestock productivity and animal welfare is a really, really important part of that production that agricultural scientists can play a part in. And whether it be either crops or animal products, it's really important to ensure that we have great food shelf life and food safety and nutrition. So the products that we produce need to be safe to eat, so not harbouring any pathogens that could make the consumers sick. They need to be able to maintain good quality while they're being shipped around the world or while they're in stores being sold, and they also need to be nutritious. So agricultural scientists get involved in all the levels of that activity as well. And then we think more broadly, things such as resource use policy. So an agricultural scientist can come away from a degree with some great skills in water and soil management, and that can help inform policy. So that's just an example of some of the broad areas that agricultural scientists can get involved with. So I think we can move to the next slide. Thanks, Rachel. So agricultural careers are actually quite broad. I've put a few examples here of the particular employers or the employing sectors that might provide a career pathway for agriculture graduates. Obviously, the food and beverage industries are important employers. We have students that specialise on food quality or beverage production, and then we'll go and get jobs with those sort of industries. Or they might work on farms and be involved in farm production and quality. They may be small farms, or they may be multinational, commercial farm enterprises. Agribusiness companies and rural banking too. We find that our graduates come away with the sort of skills that some of our rural banks really value, especially when they're trying to assess rural land prices. Agriculture graduates can also be employed in private research companies, so conducting research on growing crops and raising livestock better and more profitably. They could be employed within the university and research organisations, and also government departments. So most, states or regions and federal government departments will have a primary industry or an agriculture section, and our graduates are very well able to go in careers in that direction as well. Thanks, Rachel. Next slide, please. So our degrees at the University of Tasmania, currently the two major degrees that we offer are a Bachelor of Agricultural Science with honours, which is a 4-year degree. However, it is possible to depart the degree at 3 years without the honours component. We also have a 2-year Masters of Agriculture and Food Sciences degree, for which those students who have already completed a bachelor elsewhere or in a different type of science or a different type of discipline can enter that master's degree. So it is largely a coursework degree. There are 3 semesters of coursework, and then the 4th semester is either a research project or a professional practice pathway. So both of these degrees, one of the real highlight of them both is that they're very hands-on focused and fieldwork focused. So we have great access to local farming regions, and we think about Tasmania as being like a living laboratory. We have great access to commercial farms, a whole range of natural environments, and so students can easily access those environments for field trips, for study visits and so on. We have really quite high value horticulture and production in Tasmania. We have high quality vegetable production, extractive crops, vineyards and so on. And we also have, of course, a very diverse livestock sector as well, with sheep, cattle and dairy. We also have really diverse soil types, and so a lot of agriculture is based on the soil and what you can do with that soil. So we offer a range of diversity there that students can see and understand those kind of elements of soil science. And we also have a diverse range of agribusiness case studies, from very small boutique businesses to larger enterprises that students can study here. So we really do think about Tasmania as being like a living laboratory. So both with industry and community-based research and honours projects, they really focus on real world problems. So all of our honours or our research student projects will be out, like the photo on the left here, out sampling material on real farms and answering real questions, but doing so with really high level science. And our staff are extremely skilled in matching an industry problem to a sort of an area of novel science, and coming out with really exciting projects that students learn a lot from. So I think Rachel mentioned this at the beginning as well. There is a really strong demand for agricultural scientists, both in Australia and internationally. We know that the world population is growing rapidly. Food production does not grow as rapidly as the human population grows, and therefore we need to find smarter ways to grow our food, grow more food and maintain high quality. And we need to do it with less available land as well, because of housing and degradation of land. So we have a real challenge ahead, and our agricultural science students can really fit that challenge. So for that reason, they are very highly sought after. And because our degree is quite diverse, it covers so many disciplines, from crop health, agronomy, soil science, water management. Our graduates can go off in a range of different areas to help meet this demand. So it's really an exciting time to be part of agricultural science. And the next slide, thanks. Now, one thing that we're very proud of here at the University of Tasmania is that our agricultural, our rankings are very high on a world scale. So agriculture is ranked 44th in the world at the University of Tasmania. And we also have very high scores for our impact and engagement surveys. This means that the research that we conduct leads to real change out there in in the landscape with industry, with the farming community. And it's that research strength that we can bring into our teaching program. So our students who are undertaking our bachelor or a master's degree get to experience that high quality research that we're doing and get involved in that. So we have a research focus across horticulture, dairy and livestock, agricultural systems, and food science and safety. As well as conducting research within Tasmania and in other parts of Australia, we also have a strong record of international development research in Asia. For example, we have many staff who are engaged in international projects, for example, in Indonesia and in Vietnam, where they're working with local communities to expand knowledge and suit that knowledge to the local environment. And some of our students have the opportunity to be involved in some of those international development projects, which is really, really exciting opportunity. Thanks, Rachel. Next slide. So that's all I have in the terms of the slides, but obviously I can see a few questions coming up there already, and I'm very happy to answer any questions. So please, how do we want to do this, Rachel? Shall I have a look at the questions or do you want to guide them? You're muted, Rachel.
Sorry. Yes, I can read out the questions for you, and we can go from there. So I have a question from Sanil. Can we have campus location outside Tasmania for Master of Agriculture Science?
We have had some students conducting some units remotely, so attending by distance for our Masters of Agricultural Science, but most of our units do require on-campus attendance. So really it is because we have such hands-on fantastic experiences that it's really worth the students being here. So apart from a few exceptions related to COVID and students who had already commenced but could not come back onto campus, we can make those exceptions, but our enrolment really is still campus-based.
All right. Okay. So hope to answer your question, Sanil. We have a next questions. How would a student from a big city such as Singapore, Hong Kong, benefited from this program where agricultural land space is very limited? The students study topics such as aquaponics, hydroponics, or any other studies that will actually relate to their countries?
Yeah, so we certainly do. Our foundation in the degree is the science, and that science can be applied to so many different areas. So crop physiology and nutrition, certainly, you know, whether it's a plant growing in the soil or a plant growing in a hydroponic system, that same fundamental science will apply. And we certainly have a range of research activity that's conducted in aeroponics and hydroponics. And as I mentioned, that protected cropping kind of scenario is really, really increasing. So I think those skills that people learn through understanding the course science can be applied to any other situation.
Okay, great. Wow, so many questions. I have more. Is there any internship for agriculture? And if yes, what is the duration of the internship related?
Okay, we don't have formal internships within our degrees. We have some short sort of industry placement opportunities within our bachelor degree, but the internships are not really part of our degree, no.
Okay, so they can do that, but it's not compulsory. Is that the case?
Well, if by internships the question is referring to placements with industry, then we don't have those formalized as like a long internship, but we do have short ones called industry placement, where there is increased interaction between an individual student and an individual industry or farm, but it's not a large internship as may be seen in some other degrees. Yeah.
Okay, sure. I think you mentioned before about graduate outlook as well. There's a question, can you provide some example of jobs after study?
Yep, okay. So one example of a job that Yep, so I didn't actually list them. On the slide before that, I think we had or maybe the one before that, we had a list of, yes,
Careers.
agricultural career employers, but not really the actual careers. So yes, the jobs themselves could be an example of an agronomist, for example, or a crop advisor. So that would be where people are working for an agribusiness company or a farm production and quality. So there might be a consultant. So an agricultural scientist who is employed as a crop advisor to work with growers and farmers across a region and provide them with advice. So it's basically an advice service, and they would be helping the farmers to ensure that they are managing the crop in the best way possible, helping them to sample their soils, look at nutrition and so on, and then give those farmers the advice. And so that is a paying service. So agronomists are certainly a very important career pathway. Some other examples might be that someone could actually go into producing food or beverages themselves. They might go straight into set up their own startup company, startup business. They might go into research. They might go into an academic area and you know, like myself, or they might go into pure research. They might go into government. So sort of an agricultural policy officer is an example. Another one would be, say, a biosecurity officer, someone who can advise on import and export of plant material and ensuring that biosecurity standards are met, and so on. There's just such a long list of jobs that yeah, I could talk for much longer if you like. But hopefully that answers some of or provides a few examples anyway.
Thank you, Professor. What are the expected salaries of some of the career that you just mentioned, if you happen to know?
Probably a little bit hard to know, but certainly agronomists coming out in their first or second year might be earning around, say, 50 or 60,000 Australian dollars per year, and then they would rapidly increase after that time. But I think usually the salary is within that, you know, 50 to 100,000 range for an agronomist.
Yeah.
For research staff, it would start a bit higher and go and sort of a shift both with the starting salary and the top salary. And obviously for people who are self-employed or operating business startups, it's all related to how successful they are.
Sure. Okay, let's move on to another questions. When it comes to sustainable food, genetically modified crops, is that still a big thing, research and learn about, especially with all the controversies, or does agriculture seems to be moving towards other ways, such as protective cropping?
It is still important, and it's still very much discussed and debated in terms of as a controversy using genetically modified crops. Certainly in Australia, there are a large number of crops that are now grown as GMOs, including canola, wheat, and so on. In Tasmania, we actually have a GMO moratorium. So no genetically modified crops are grown in Tasmania, and we see that as a market advantage. So there are sectors of the consumer, I guess, community who wish to have GMO-free production, and therefore the Tasmanian government has made that decision. But we still teach about that in our degree program, because it is obviously very important for many parts of the world. But not just GMOs, but there's other ways now to manipulate crops and even pests with a non-GMO approach. For example, one project area I'm aware of is that instead of using a GMO, say cotton or canola, that has modified genes to make it more resistant to a particular insect, instead of that, there's a new technology called RNA interference, and you can basically spray onto the crop this RNA that is going to make the plant react as if it's resistant. And that is approved as a non-GMO method. So it's using that genetic knowledge and molecular biology that we know about, but it's a non-GMO approach. So we are really on the forefront of understanding all of the different approaches that we can use. That sometimes GMO is the best, sometimes there's other approaches that are new and maybe more acceptable for some consumers in some countries.
Okay, all right. All right, the next question I think I can help to answer. There's a student, prospective students from Pakistan would like to come for master program, and he's asking about scholarships. So basically for all the participants in this room, we do provide scholarships for our program, Bachelor of Agriculture Science and Master of Agriculture Science. Our scholarships is international scholarship and it's based on student academics. So it is automatically given if the student has the result that is required for that particular scholarships. So more information about the scholarship, you can easily find it on our website under international scholarships. So that is questions from Muhammad Wasem. So I hope I can answer that. I have another questions here. I have a bachelor in IT and I have developed an interest in agribusiness due to rising population of people while food is in short supply. Can I straight away apply for your master program? Or do I need to obtain a second bachelor with Institution of Agriculture? Yeah.
Okay, so I'm not the coordinator of the master's program, so I must admit I don't have that detail to hand about the entry requirements, but I believe that a bachelor degree in agriculture is not required. We have some students that enter with a different kind of a bachelor program. So really it's just a matter of putting in an application and seeing if that's accepted. Yeah.
Yeah, our admission team will come back to you if they need more things, or if your qualification is not enough, they will come back to you with more details. So yeah, I think that's that. And then we have another, okay, but this is more relating into, it's asking whether agriculture careers is in occupational list in Australia. You might have to check it on Australian government website and look in there for occupational list in Australia. And then I have another questions here. If a student would like to do a study about crop, plants, and they would also like to study about animals, can Bachelor of Agriculture Science serve that or enough for that student interest?
Yes, we can. I can't see the question on the list there, but I think I understood the question. So our Bachelor of Agricultural Science has 2 majors. You have to choose at least one major, but you can choose both majors that we offer. The first major is called Crop Science and Plant Health, and that very much focuses on biology of plants, horticulture, crop protection, crop science and so on. But our second major is called Sustainable Agriculture, and that does have animal science included, farming systems, soil science and so on. So we don't have a large focus on animal science, but we do have an introductory unit called animal production systems, and then our more advanced unit on animal science. We also have a fairly strong research team in dairy, and so often our students will, who have an interest in animal science, might be able to do an honours research topic on dairy. We also do quite a bit on meat and wool quality as well. So we can certainly cover both areas within our degree. However, our focus is stronger on the crop and plant science.
All right, very good. Now I have another question. It's specifically for you, Kara. What brought you to this subject area and what drives your passion in this subject in agriculture?
Ah, okay. Well, look, I must admit, I did not do a Bachelor of Agriculture. I did a Bachelor of Plant Science, majoring in plant physiology. So a Bachelor of Science. And when I finished my Bachelor of Science, actually, I found it quite difficult to get a job. And I quickly found that my peers who had graduated from agriculture were much more employable, had such a diverse range of options. And so, whereas for me, it was more sort of a research pathway. So what I did was I then did a PhD, which took me closer to agriculture, and I moved into agriculture from there. And really what I love is the fact that everything we do in agriculture is immediately applicable. It's real world relevant. So whether it's about helping a farmer to manage their fungicide program. So my specialty is plant pathology, plant disease management, and I love the science of understanding how a plant and a fungal species interact at the cellular level, but I also love understanding how that is relevant to a farmer, and how we can use that knowledge and use our very fine detailed science knowledge to come up with solutions that will help a farmer to manage their problem, and that might allow them to export their crop, you know, to a new market because they've proven that they have freedom from a certain disease or a pest. So yeah, a whole range of things drives my passion in the subject. But also what drives my passion is just students. I love working with students. So it's a great thing to combine, both understanding agriculture but also helping students.
Great, great. Thank you so much, Associate Professor Kara. And for our audience, thank you for your questions. There are some questions that we will come back to you. You're more than welcome to write us an email in your.study@utas.edu.au, where our team will be able to help you in terms of admission, requirements, scholarships, and whatever questions that you may have. Thank you so much for the participation today, and we'll see you again in the next webinar. And thank you once again for Professor Kara Berry. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thanks for the interest from everyone.